When were you born? What's your birthday?
3/1/27, Ford Hospital. I enlisted in the Navy when I was 17. I was in the class of 44 at University of Detroit High School, Jebby High School. You go from Detroit, you go to Chicago to boot camp, Great Lakes. Yeah. Smartly, because everybody else was getting drafted. My mother said, "Oh, I want you to be a doctor like your father, so get into the Navy and get into the medical corps." So I enlisted and got into I became a hospital corpsman, so to speak. So I'm standing in line with a good friend of mine in what they call outgoing unit, OGU, wherein they said, now some people are going to some place, other people are going to some other place. So the friend of mine was standing with, he said, the guy who ran the show said, "Okay, Dick Buell, you're going to Sampson, New York. Tom Kreutz, you're going to San Diego." Okay, got on the train up to San Diego. Some point the train stops and some guy gets off. He said, "Well, where the hell, who's that?" "Pinky Higgins." "Oh, I have to sit in this goddamn train," and he gets off and drinks beer or has some girlfriends. I think there might have been a relief pitcher on that train. Johnny Gorsuch or something. I'm very faint on that, but it was Higgins for sure. And the things they used to say about Higgins was that when he threw the ball over to Hank Greenberg, you could count the stitches on the ball. He was that good. Mickey Cochrane got smashed by a ball or a bat, and my father, who was in charge of the eye, ear, nose, and throat department at Henry Ford Hospital, took care of Mickey Cochrane. And that was where my recollection of Navin Field and the Tigers really began. There's subsequent things, but that's kind of where it started. It really came about really through my mother, who said, "That's what you want to do," because she had always wanted me to be a doctor. So she said, let's arrange it so you enlist and you become a hospital apprentice, 1, then you move up to hospital apprentice 2, and then 3, and then a pharmacist mate. And I think I wound up when I was discharged honorably, as a pharmacist mate 3 or something. That's about as far as I got. And I was in the military for, I don't know, 3 years or something of that order. We weren't paying much attention to what was going on in Europe. We were seeing guys coming back from the islands, and they were shot up horribly. And I mean, we just got some really guys who were just from Guadalcanal, for example, just horribly maimed. And we had to take care of them. That's, give them shots, medications, bandages, just take care of them. It was basically bandaging, the big deal was sulfa. There was no penicillin and that stuff. And then sulfa on wounds, shots. Neat way to give shots. You get the guy's bottom in your face, and you hit his butt real fast and hit him with a needle. It was very effective. The butt would constrict, and then you hit him with a needle. The guy never knew he got. He remembered being slapped in the butt, but he didn't remember the needle.
Yep.
But that's what we did. In a ward, I don't know, whatever you call it, with a bunch of wounded guys, and we were all confined, in an area that was fenced in. And I thought, these poor guys, they came in from being just shot up, and they couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, And they wanted to just get out of there, go downtown and do something, get a beer or do something. And I felt, I don't mean to be a humanitarian, but at some point I thought, I want to do something for these guys. So I took a chair out to the fence, and they could run out and get on the chair and go over the fence and go downtown and get a beer. And that's probably my most heroic thing. People always ask me, you're in the Navy? I say, yeah. Well, what ship are you on? I was never on a ship, I was on land-based, and I was in San Diego, and that's what I did, and that's the Navy. group of guys, I don't know for what reason, but you're with a group of guys, and you see a lady coming along pushing a baby carriage, and you yell at her. You yell at her. You had your fun. Now push.
Yeah.
That's dirty old stuff. And I don't really know how to answer that. I think they were so badly banged up, shattered. I don't know what they had. I don't know how to answer that question. I remember one guy had his his whole jaw was shot away in wires here. And at one point, he wanted to get drunk, and we thought, boy, he'll drown himself in liquor. And we had to cut the wires. And the only thing I ever knew, and this is sort of heroic, but except in a way it makes some sense. I'm glad I didn't go out with the medics. A lot of medics went out on the islands, of course. But the Japanese were taught to shoot the medics first, for obvious reasons, So I thought, Jesus, if I'd gone out there, I'd be dead. It's almost, let me give you a terrible answer. In a way, it's like some things I've seen about how bad, revoltingly bad, unbelievably undiscussable things are in Puerto Rico. That you just don't even want to think about it or talk about it. It's just, they can't humanly exist. I mean, guys, Jesus. Now I really digress, I suppose. My best friend in high school, really super guy, couldn't have a better friend, was a captain in a submarine, went out, goodbye. And now people say you don't want to talk about things. Well, I'm not one of those, whatever happened, but I just give you as an example. It's just, there are things they're just bad. Not because I'm so squeamish, but to see guys shot up that badly, you just, thank God for me, but for the God,
The Japanese have accepted our terms fully. That's the word we've just received from the White House in Washington. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Second World War.
Word comes out that the Japanese have surrendered.
Hey.
Do you remember that day?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
What was the reaction on base?
Hooray! Now we get beer. I think that's probably true, and it sounds silly, but I think we got, maybe it was 3-2 beer, but I think, shallow as that sounds, I think we got beer. Jesus, is this really terrific? Sounds silly, but well, of course, hooray, and obviously, but shallow sense, by God, we're going to get 3-2 and then a B2. Well, that's like, but and I guess we knew the war ended in Europe, but that was not we weren't there, And then all of a sudden it was great, and then how the hell do I get out of San Diego? And somehow I talked some yeoman into get me on a train to go back to civilization, so to speak. And on the way back, we would stop at dispensaries, as they call them, along the way. The thing I remember particularly in those dispensaries, they were decommissioning them, and they threw everything away. Those microscopes, bed linens, kitchen stuff, just no more use for that, just threw it away, irrespective of what it was, what it cost. We don't have any more use for that, period. So as a result of that, a lot of stuff that I have or used to have up at the island in Canada was USN forks, knives, that kind of stuff. Just stuff from those days.
How long after that announcement of VJ Day and the subsequent surrender ceremonies were you get a sense that you would be leaving, that you had enough points to go home?
I don't think it was points, as I recall. I don't think it was points. I think I managed to talk myself into a yeoman's, a writer, you know, good grace to get on I don't know what they call it, some kind of a group. They would put me on a train to go back east. This is a terrible story to tell you, but I will. My mother was coming over to meet me, bring our dog along. And so Sally was elsewhere, and I went downtown with a couple of, this army guy and a couple of his buddies, and we started drinking. And we drank a little too much. And we walked out on one of the main streets, I forget what it was. Ran into a couple of shore patrolmen. And I had a little problem with my mouth, whereupon I did something that I've since regretted. The shore patrolman decided he heard enough out of me, so he took his billy club and hit me right smack here, which they're not allowed to do, you know, in the face, they're not permitted to do, but they did. So instead of visiting with my mother, I was in the brig on Navy Pier. You know, you're hearing my whole life story here.
I love it.
You know, but then I got out of that and went back to normal civilization. And
So your mother comes out to visit you, and all of a sudden this event that she was scheduled to meet you at, there's no time.
right, I'm literally in the jail on Navy Pier. Yep. Sad as it is.
Terrific. I love this. I love the optics at some point.
Yeah, that's the word, optics, for sure.
When you mustered out, did you know what you were going to do for a living? You come back home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to be a doctor.
Mhm.
Yep.
And use the GI Bill.
Oh, sure, the GI Bill, 5220. You know what that is? 5220,
52 weeks.
$20,
Yeah.
yeah. Then I took biology, qualitative analysis, quantitative analysis, then I took organic chemistry. Oh, stop, halt. No, not going to be a doctor.
Well, thank you again. This is fantastic.
Thank you, my God, I've enjoyed this.